Last video was part 1. This video is part 2. We 4-squared the board. Now we're going to cut all our pieces to length. Cut list has been attached, but this just goes basic miter saw operations as well as labeling your parts. It's so important that you label your parts. So watch, enjoy. Pieces, the 4 pieces out of the board. But before we do that, we want to make sure we have a square end. So all that means is we're going to come over to the miter saw. Just get slight pressure towards the fin, slight pressure on the table. Bring it up to full speed, go down, let go of the trigger, and as long as this is dialed in square, which we could always check with our combination square, that'll give us a square end, which means our measurements will be accurate. Right now, it's not a square end. Now that we know we're 4 square all the way around and our ends are square, we're going to go ahead and cut the parts off according to our cut list. So I'll have that posted in a different area, not in the video. My first part is 10 3/4 inches. So what I'm going to do is pull my tape measure. I like to make a V with the V pointing right to the measurement mark. Now I'm going to take my handy combination square that we've been using this project, and getting the shoulder tight on that nice flat edge, I'm going to draw a line right through the middle of that V. Remember to use a very sharp pencil when you're doing this, because you want a nice fine line, not a big, thick, bold one. Alright, now this part's important as well. I'm going to put an X right here, and I'm going to show you why in the next clip. Okay, so this is the miter saw blade coming down on the part that I was just showing you guys. And that X, the reason we want to do that, look at that shadow. Right now, if I cut on this side of the line, I'm going to delete everything that's that shadow is. Which means my 10 3/4 is now going to be a little less than 10 3/4. If I cut on this part of the line, I want to actually leave. I should be able to see trace amounts of my pencil left after I make that cut. And then that way I know it comes out true 10 3/4. It's very important to legibly label these parts on both sides with your name on it. There's 20 of yous running around this shop making this, and all of your parts are going to look the same. And I don't feel like solving any disputes or helping you look for the part that you lost, especially when it's not labeled. So label it what the part is called with your name legibly, yes, on both sides. Because if you have a blank side and that's sitting on a bench like this board is, it's going to be much easier to detect if your name's there. Okay, now another thing I want to point out, this is a pretty clear board, meaning there's not a lot of knots in it, although I do have this knot right here. If you get a board with knots in it, it's okay, as long as you make sure your knots are not at the end of the board where a lot of our joinery action is going to be happening. If it's here in the middle, that's okay. But pretty much take the width of your board, flip it on axis, and if there's no knots here, you're good. If there is, you can just cut this section off, scrap that piece, and start from new here. Thing is, don't try and lay all of these out, like measure 8 3/4, draw a line, go ahead and then measure 8 3/8, draw a line, measure 6 3/8 and draw a line, and try and cut them out. You'll think that's a time-saving thing, but even if you try and account for the thickness of the blade in each cut, your error is going to stack up. And no matter what, by the time you get to the last board, it's not going to come out the measurement you want. So do them one at a time. Pieces, decide what side of the pieces you want to be the front, and label the fronts all fronts. And then it'll sound redundant, but go ahead and label the backs all backs. Again, it'll just decrease the cognitive load when you're trying to do a lot of visualization later. How to get all your boards cut and properly labeled. Next we will be making a half lap, and that'll be the next video, video 3.